All right. On a very special Monday night episode of the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, of course, my camera would give me like the most. Oh, it's been a day, shall I say? But nonetheless, we missed y'all last Thursday, so we wanted to cut the week in half and get out those thoughts about all the things that has happened in the last 7 days, including the WWE announcing the ID program. Crown Jewel, one hell of a pay-per-view. Got a lot to talk about there. Looks like business is booming as Bobby Lashley makes his debut in AEW, and Bound for Glory sells out and once again proves that they are a resilient brand and looks like they're going to continue to have a bright future. We have all that and more tonight, so let's get into tonight's episode of the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast.
Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really need that Big Gold Belt.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, a very special Monday night edition of it. I'm Najir, along with my guy Silly Sellis, and we're going to do what we do and crank out a whole hour of pro wrestling discussion. I know it's Monday night, so I know some of you are probably watching Monday Night Raw, which means we're missing it. But nonetheless, we'll tune in once we get through this hour. And then, of course, we'll be back on Thursday, regularly scheduled programming, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on all of your streaming platforms, and you can catch that audio playback the day after. So yeah, once again, my camera's acting up, and I promise you, we wanted to start this at 8. It is about 8:25, which means I spent, I don't know, upwards of 40 minutes trying to troubleshoot what's happening, and it's frustrating, but it's all good. We gotta get the job done. So how you doing today on this lovely Monday night?
I'm good. It's like they got to only look at one good person instead of two good-looking people. So we'll do it half the battle. But
You want me to full screen you? I can full screen you if you want.
Nah, keep the BGB up. I don't want all the attention. They need to see at least the BGB logo.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Tomorrow's voting day.
Yeah.
Do what you gotta do, folks. We already talked about it last week. It's your civil duty.
Yeah.
To go out there and make a change in your respective city and state. But let's start off with Crown Jewel, the 2024 edition of the 10-year Saudi deal between WWE and His Excellence or Royalty, whatever they call him. But the Saudi money that continues to be poured into WWE and all the combat sports at that. But nonetheless, we are in the 2024 edition, which, you know, we spent a lot of time over the years really speaking about how this is a glorified house show, and then it sort of evolved into sort of their WrestleMania, and even to the point that they have their pre-show and the crowd is chanting WrestleMania because they still want more.
Yeah.
But I think what I do think is undeniable. The money involved here, that Saudi money, is real deep.
It is.
But the presentation is however you want to put it, is must watch. It is not some rinky-dink knockoff or just light version or something. I mean, granted, the card is even built like a WrestleMania card at times. And so one thing for us being on the East Coast, being able to tune in at 1:00, blessings.
Yeah.
We never complain about that. Over around like 6 or 7, I will take that any and every day. But I do think now, I think it's about time that we turn the page on just the idea of it being a glorified house show to like it being a true, legitimate PLE that you're going to expect a spectacle. You're going to have some great matches. You may get some fantasy matches. You may even get some rush booking. But it's going to be must watch. I feel that way. What did you think initially coming into this edition of the of the Crown Jewel?
So for me, it was more so of, okay, I'm expecting another glorified house show. Granted, it's a PLE. Granted, when you're in Saudi Arabia, the crowd is going to be hot because they always anticipating wanting to see some of their favorite wrestlers that you don't get to see just on a day-to-day basis. Like, for example, here in the States, you might be able to see your favorite wrestler at a house show. You may be able to see them at a Raw or SmackDown tape, and that may come around once or twice a year. And even though this is now coming as an annual event, they're trying to make this into a spectacle where you see the seeds that are being planted when it comes to trying to make this a legitimate PLE. And I think when the show opened up with the 6-man tag with the Bloodline versus Bloodline matchup, I think they was trying to make their point of, yes, we're going to open this with the show. So this is going to be the point where you're going to want to stay here. You're going to want to see what happens, because if we're opening this as the opening match, you don't know what's going to happen at the end. And I started to see those seeds planted a little bit about trying to make this relevant, putting some belts on the line, or creative belts in a way, just to make sure people understand, like, when we come to Saudi Arabia, it's for a big moment. It's for advancing storylines. And let's see how we can pick this up going in now to the Road to Survivor Series, and pretty soon the Road to WrestleMania. I didn't have high expectations for the show, but I kind of was cautiously surprised with it. And I know we'll get into a little bit later, but I think this is now, if you want to say planting the seeds for making this a legit PLE, and I think you might need to rebrand it with a different title. Just you see that shifting going on for WWE and what they want to do with the show.
Okay, so a couple of things I wanna touch on. I have no problems with the belts.
Okay.
And I don't have no problem with the belts because they're making Saudi Arabia a destination.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, in the world of combat sports, everybody is going over there, one, looking for a check, but two, because if you've noticed across the board, everybody is stepping up their presentation, their productions. I mean, it won't be long before there's a Sphere over there or something of that magnitude, because even if you look at Tyson Fury's last match, whether you watch boxing or not, I would strongly suggest that you look it up, that what they do over there is unlike any place in the world. And like, yes, we call Vegas the fight capital. There's MGM. And as I told you, MGM doesn't do anything for me, just like the ECW arena. Like, these are places that you're like, I understand the history and everything that's involved in those places, but like, that's all they serve. When you go to Saudi Arabia, you know you're going to get something that's out of this world. And that's the thing. Like, I like the fact that they're making it a destination. And the belts didn't have to leave. I don't think we need to invest in more belts. That's going to either cause more confusion for the writers in terms of storytelling, or it just becomes a constant prize each and every time. Now, granted, the belt is absurd, but I like it because I think it needs to have that feel of like its own thing. But the rings, those are legitimate rings. And the fact that these wrestlers do get over there and they get that energy from the crowd, but they also get to walk away with something super valuable. I think not only does it show you that the company invests in you, but it also shows you that the appreciation from the Saudi prince himself in terms of coming over there, and he's putting together these WrestleMania-ish like shows for them. So, and then let's not forget too, they got is it called WrestleMania? Not WrestleMania, WWE World or whatever it is, but they got like their own like museum of sorts that these belts will sit in and you can visit. And obviously now we'll just continue to see this history grow here with Liv Morgan and Cody Rhodes being the inaugural champions. But I just think too, like, they're creating their own thing. They're telling you that this is the place to be, and that's what they're investing in. And I think that's great. At one point, it was them saying, "Hey, we got money. We're going to put on our WrestleMania, and that's cool because we can do it." I think the narrative has changed now that they're like, "Hey, we're creating spectacles. You're going to want to be here. And when you come here, it will feel like you're in a whole new world where you got the WWE world. You're going to get these WrestleMania productions. You're going to get these dream matches that you may not get on American soil. Our crowd is going to be hot. We're hungry. You don't have to worry about you feeling like you didn't get your money's worth." And I think that's cool. Outside of the, actually going there. I think if logistics was a little better, I think more people will be considering it, to be honest. It seems like there is a absolute bang for your buck, and Riyadh season seems to be the place to be for anybody that loves any of this.
But let me ask this question. So you said an interesting point about how you liking the belts, but like think of it this way: are these belts now in Saudi are going to be now advertised with maybe every Saudi Arabia event, or if you in some type of venue or match with there, that belt that Cody and that belt,
Well,
So go ahead.
well, actually, what do you want?
I mean, I think, you know what, this may sound cliche, but I think the belt should be a showcase of an honor where that's like in your personal trophy case. Like to me, Morgan having that belt, I don't think it should ever be defended. I think this should be where she just puts that in her own house and say, hey, I won this in 2024, where it was my title, where my championship being a Raw champion versus the SmackDown champion being Nia Jax, and I won this. So that means I was probably the best wrestler for that time, and I want to keep that in my showcase. Now, in a way, it may be cliche where it's like the Wild and Out belt, where every time you have a guest appearance that comes a Wild and Out, you could probably win this same belt over and over again. But I think this should be a showcase of honor, kind of like what the NBA is doing with their cup, their NBA Cup series, where it's not your world champion, but it's something that could be won every single year when you go to this type venue because of the partnership that they have. And I think if you have different champions come in or different people come in and win those type of championship belts, that's an honorary thing to you as a wrestler, what you won, even if it's like an impromptu tournament, if it's a champion versus champion match, it could be something that could be some recognition for you of what you've done in your career and maybe even go towards your Hall of Fame credentials.
All right, so first thing I want to clear up, WWE World is actually WWE Experience, but I'm sure y'all know what I was talking about. But here's how I want it to be. Obviously, this is champion versus champion, and we'll come back to that in 1 second. But I want something that's going to be consistent, because the first thing I thought was like whoever wins should defend it the next time there's a Saudi Arabia show. But we all know how this could happen, where somebody could retire and or whatever it could be. I do think the champion versus champion thing going forward absolutely means your best versus your best, and that is something that can be picked up at any given time. The belt is who wins. You get the belt. You get the celebration. I don't know. Who knows what else they do down the line in terms of Riyadh season? Like, do they bring you out to celebrate it? And because there's 2 shows a year, I think that maybe it should only be defended once, so that everybody essentially gets a 1-year run of that of having that title. And then obviously you get the ring, which the ring is obviously super cool and very expensive, knowing how they rock. But yeah, I would love for it to continue to be champion versus champion. So next year, our 2 champions, and whether the champion happens to be Cody Rhodes again or somebody else, I think it's something to look forward to. And I think it's also going to be interesting, because if you do keep champion versus champion, you also have to ensure that you have 2 champions that are going to be willing to take the travel, which is always something, Correct. Everybody has their personal beliefs. There are wrestlers in the past that have, vowed against the travel. Some have changed their mind and came around to it. Obviously, the politics, the landscape and things have changed, considering that women are now heavily featured. Even Triple H saying that the Prince requested for more, whether that's his optics or something. Who knows? It is what it is. But I do think it'll be cool to continue to see it year after year, and just let them have their moment. Let the belt be the thing. You get the whole PR run with it, and it is what it is. So we'll see. I'm not mad at that. But my biggest question for you now, let's take a look at the championship matches here, because we did have Nia Jax versus Liv Morgan, and Cody versus
Gunther.
Gunther. First of all, both matches were bangers.
Great matches.
Nia Jax, hell of a run. First of all, now I thought let's take a step back to the last show in Saudi Arabia or in the Middle East. Nia Jax and Gunther both won King of the Ring.
Yes.
The King and Queen of the Ring.
Yes.
Which means they won, and it obviously worked out for the best for them. They went on to become champions. Now, if they would have doubled down on them, that would have been interesting. That would have shown you the utmost investment into them. But I think now it's like, hey, they won the trophies. They got to be featured in these matches. They both very nearly won, but they didn't. So I thought the booking was great. To allow the other folks to have those moments. And I'm sure them as friends and as colleagues also would agree that this was a good decision. No one looked weak in my eyes. I also think because they're creating their own world. I think nothing about this blemishes any of the champions. I think everybody is still respectable. Nia Jackson's still a force. She's having a hell of a run. Liv Morgan, I actually think I think she gains a little bit more respect for her run, considering that she's like the true slimy heel with all of the interferences and whatnot, and having Dirty Dom, who's the biggest heel in pro wrestling right now. Gunther is still going to be considered the best at the graps in the world, or at least within that conversation. And Cody is the face of WWE, who gets to do the PR run with this belt in the ring, which is the utmost importance for the optics of working in Saudi Arabia. Absolutely. Especially when you considering like, hey, if what happens when they want to re-up on this deal? Everybody call it Saudi blood money. You know, it has that little stink on it. But if Cody is out here being an ambassador, you know, does it look a little better? Are you a little bit a little bit more open to it? So I think, honestly, perfect booking across the board. What do you think?
And hopefully, thanks for the heads up. Hopefully I sound better. Do I sound better now with the change?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay, good.
I'm shaking my head. Like, can't even see me.
Good. Appreciate that. That was
Disney Frozen, y'all, by the way.
He's there. So one of the things I thought about, so I think Liv Morgan needed the win more than Nia Jax. Because like you said, Nia and Gunther both won the last time where they had, you know, King of the Ring moments and things of that nature. But when you think about what Liv Morgan is doing, Rhea Ripley is now off. She's hurt. She's going to be off for a while. You have to spend time now building up not only the person that beat Rhea, but how you can make her to a legitimate, you know, title holder for what she's doing in this ring. And I think you're doing it in the classic heel way that we used to see in the 90s and the early 2000s or the Ruthless Aggression era. I think this is now a classic booking that you're dealing with Liv. And Liv can go in the ring. Don't let it get twisted. Even the time before that in Saudi Arabia, she had a great match against Becky Lynch, which she won the title before. So I think you're now solidifying Liv as one of the best women performers that we had. And when you think about when she first started, and you think about that core that she was in with that stable, I wouldn't have thought Liv Morgan would have been the best one out of that group. And she has flourished tremendously, and I love to see it. Now with Gunther, I'm a little bit, you know, conflicted because, yes, you do have to protect Cody. Cody is the person who is the moneymaker. He's the face of WWE. This is the person that beat Roman at WrestleMania. You got to make sure you legitimize his run. You got to make sure you extend his run to make sure you feel like he's a top player. But I wouldn't have been mad if Gunther would have went over Cody in this match versus, you know, champ versus champ, because I think that could have built more to what that storyline could have been if they see each other later down the road. It wouldn't have diminished both of them because, like you said, the match was great and looked both of them strong. But sometimes it's okay for your baby face to look vulnerable and take a loss time to time. Even the 72-10 Bulls who won the championship took a couple of L's through their journey. They weren't undefeated. But it's okay to take those losses in these type of matches, in my opinion.
I don't know. I disagree because I think that we don't want them to rendezvous too soon. There's money to be made, which is why, again, I say like the house show aspects of it, because these matches that don't have truly long-term, aspects to it. But now they have, I feel like they're turning the page that they are making sure that like these matches are canon. But with that still being said, they're on different brands. And I think, you pick it up at the Royal Rumble, even though mentioning, callbacks to the Royal Rumble and, those moments, those sort of like once in a year type of moments that happens. Because at the end of the day, I mean, first of all, we already had Roman lose earlier, clean. So Roman and Cody losing, like, I think there's something to be said there if that would have happened. But that's like a lot right now. That's a lot. That's a lot to kind of fandom as a consumer of this. Like, what are they going to do now that you have like your two top people losing? Gunther, does he become definitively the number one person? But the one thing I know I'm surprised you didn't say that Michael Cole and them hit on is, well, if Cody loses as the undisputed WWE champion, that belt. If there's anything that needed to be protected, it was the damn belt.
Well, that's true. That's true. So it's hard to say because you may give a point there, but I still possibly wouldn't have been mad or had a negative reaction Roman losing clean and then Cody losing clean. To me, it just sometimes it happens. Like you have a bad day where at the office where you just have to take those L's sometimes. I think sometimes WWE is scared to put L's when you could, even if it's of a DQ, even if it's something that's not clean, just to make a storyline where, man, Cody could lose on any given night. And even when I look at Cody's reign, it's still not as dominant or nowhere near as dominant where you think Roman Reigns or the OTC is like the better wrestler, because it's like everything he did was so dominant in his reign. The thing that Cody is going through is he's struggling a little bit. Like he struggled a little bit against AJ Styles. He struggled a little bit against KO. And he's having these vulnerable matches where sometimes if you take that L, it can do more help than hurt you in that. Just my opinion. But you do have to protect the belt.
As if that's the only thing you need to do is to protect the belt. I mean, but here's the thing: you start having Cody losing, it makes you no different than the year before he won the belt, where all he did was lose. And like we get it, which I made this correlation. A lot of people don't. The resilience of Cody coming back and winning is a story. But the one thing a lot of people don't really put attached to this is that like we call him the American Nightmare. But essentially, Cody losing and coming back to win is truly the American dream. It's somebody that has been knocked down so many times to the point that you finally arise to the occasion and you win the big one. And that's what everybody inspires to do as an American, is to like fulfill your biggest dreams on the mountaintop. I think the moment that he starts losing, we start talking about the story again, and then there's like, oh, there's that, and like we did it. We went through the whole Cody losing thing. So I say this, and we'll move on to the next. Like him losing, I think would have been more detrimental than Gunther losing. Matter of fact, Gunther losing did it even happen? Because it absolutely meant nothing. It meant nothing. It was just on to the next.
And that's why I think when you think about, let's say, long-term booking, Gunther's reign and Cody's reign, even with this loss by Gunther, who would you say potentially was more successful?
Yeah, Gunther's ceiling is so much more higher. I feel like Gunther is, maybe for my Dragon Ball fans out there, I feel like Gunther is like Broly losing to Goku, where it's just like, all right, we know Goku's the man, but like let Broly start getting some reps in. He's gonna be a problem. We know the potential's there, and he's a madman at any given time that could be the most powerful being in the entire universe.
Absolutely.
It's Gunther. Gunther. He'll be all right. He'll be that guy. Anyway, last other thing I'll say is the Seth Rollins match and Bronson Reed match was just fantastic. Bronson's Reed run has been amazing. He's such a likable guy. And he has so much talent, and I love how they reference what he did in Japan, because you tend to forget when he was released what he did to come back, and him coming back and not getting the instant run. But it took time, and now it's something that not only is fantastic to watch, but it's something you can buy into. Like he said, listen, you're not going to create a spot for me. I'll create my own. I'm digging it. I said the women, they killed it. The tag match was really cool.
Can't you just feel? We're just real quick about the women. Can you feel whenever she does it, she is probably going to have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, pops in cash-in history. You feel it coming.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad that they didn't let her cash in, because there's going to be a lot to figure out here.
Yes,
like she cashed in and makes it a triple threat match for a championship match. So does she win both? Which means, does Tiffany leave with 4 belts? Does she leave with 4 belts? 3 belts in
3 belts. Yes. That would be epic.
Oh, they would. I mean, the biggest thing is that as cool as that would have been, the Saudi Prince wasn't having that.
No.
Was not having that. And the LA Knight, Andrade, and Kamala Hayes match. I mean, I got to tell you, I was looking for a title change here, because what Andrade and Carmelo has done. I obviously we know there's bigger things to come with them, but like,
Yep.
damn, have they putting out bangers there?
Let me ask this question. This may be controversial for me to say, but you're a wrestling historian. Do you think Andrade and what they're doing in this feud with Carmelo Hayes is probably the best series, and you'll see what I'm saying by what series feud, such as Booker T and Chris Benoit?
I think I would say it's definitely within those conversations. I wouldn't rank them, but it's definitely not conversation. And the biggest thing for me is that Andrade and Carmelo are evolved athletes.
Yes.
So what they're able to do, and how further they're able to push each other is you weren't going to get the same thing with Chris Benoit and Booker T. Booker T is a very stellar wrestler.
Yeah.
Chris Benoit was one of the best technical wrestlers of the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, they had their moments, you know, and they also, I think they also had their ceilings. Like, we knew exactly how far we were going to get with both of their matches and so on.
Absolutely.
Which is why, like, Chris Benoit, I think at the time, and folks, I mean the wrestler, not talking about the guy.
Yes.
But as the wrestler, absolutely one of my favorite wrestlers, because in the ring, this guy had it. I also was a Dean Malenko fan as well too. But then when you look at somebody like Bryan Danielson, he's like the best of them plus more, because you never saw his ceiling. I still don't even think we saw his ceiling, because I would agree. I still think he got so much more. Even though, you know, his time is slowly coming to an end, but I still think the guy still has so much more he could have tapped into. And obviously, if the injury hadn't have been an aspect of this, you know, we'd be talking about him probably in a whole different stratosphere.
Agreed.
But yeah, Carmelo Hayes and Andrade, I mean, like, they're just new premier athletes. They got so much in the tank. And I still think this may be a hot take. I think they were trolling, man. I think they know they got a lot more they could have gave, and they could very moderately putting out little bangers out there. So.
Yes, I agree. I think you're right.
Yeah. The bloodline thing, I don't want to talk too much about it, but I will say this, that Solo winning clean over Roman is an interesting decision. I think it's a great call.
Great call.
Me too. Because I think everybody talk about, did they pull the trigger too fast on this? No. Because there's money to be made with this entire family. Yes. And there's still so much more
you're building.
You're building. Pieces. You got the drama, and again, I think I have to credit Will of the show of the team that, and maybe Brian Waters as well too. I believe has said this, but Brian Waters from Wrestling Ram and Brian Waters of everything, because my man just works everywhere, always working, shall I say? But I want to say that we need to remember that this whole bloodline story is really about Jey Uso.
Yes.
So the fact that there was no drama, there wasn't a lot of drama in this with Jey, makes me think that this was the thing that they need to do, because now the drama comes.
Yeah.
Because Roman, if you were supposed to treat him as an equal, and you were supposed to be the pseudo leader, and you were the man and the head of the table, and you're supposed to be the OTC, then why did you lose?
Right.
Maybe let me take a chance here.
Right.
Let me step up to the forefront, you know? I still think they got something with Rikishi to still come in and say a line or two. The Rock is lurking in the shadows.
Paul Heyman's still there to be coming back.
Paul Heyman is still there. There's so much to do. So I love how they were able to implement, as I would like to say, storytelling like the Avengers, where it's just like, all right, when Nick Fury came to the bar, he's seen Iron Man. We know something big is coming. We know we're gonna have the Avengers movie, but we're not quite there yet. We need to see Thor. You know, we need to get the rest of the game together first.
Perfect comparison.
That's what they're doing. They're throwing in the little pieces of things, and the big payoff can only be on the grandest stage of them all here now.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. But is that going to be in Las Vegas, or is that going to be in 42? It's just little things that they're throwing for this story. It's like so many avenues they can go. It's like, just hold on to your seat, guys, because it's far from being done.
Yeah. We usually take our break right now, so we don't have an indie spotlight. So we'll hit the break, and we'll just get right back into it. When we come back, we're going to talk about the new ID program that WWE has launched. We're going to give our quick reactions to that and talk a little bit more wrestling in just a second.
If you're looking to expand your podcast reach, your website reach, as well as your social media branding, Visit BigGoldBelt.com for sponsorship and advertising opportunities. Big Gold Belt Media is the golden standard for all of your media needs. We offer pre-roll and mid-roll ad spots, on-air host reads done by yours truly, Damian G, on audio as well as video platforms. For inquiries, please email biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com for more information. Again, that's biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com for your inquiries for your business. Big Gold Belt Media, wrestling, movie, comics, and more. The golden standard.
All right, we're back. Hit us up. You got anything you want us to promote, any type of collaborations or branding or whatnot? Give us a shot. I know we're talking wrestling, but we cover all the things, and the website numbers and everything is only getting better and better. So get in with us. Let's work a deal, and let's keep it moving with our next topic, talking about the WWE ID program. So this was announced October 29th, where WWE put out a press release and announcing their new program, WWE ID, which is short for the Independent Development. So the press release states that WWE ID, which when I saw ID, I was like, okay, so first of all, I love true crime and murder mystery. So I'm like, WWE Investigative Discovery. Okay, cool. I'm with this. Like, what we talking about? What we talking about here? Because I'm in for it. But nonetheless, WWE ID is the latest in our efforts to identify and support the journey of the up and coming wrestlers in the turn, raising the profile and strengthening the independent wrestling ecosystem, said WWE Chief Content Officer Triple H.
Yep.
So following the 2021 launch of the NIL, WWE ID has been constructed to support independent wrestling prospects and wrestling schools within the world-class training, development, and mentor. All right, I'll leave it there. First of all, what's your first reaction when you saw this?
So,
positive or negative?
So I'm thinking positive, and I'm reading the press release right here on my phone as you were going through it. And the thing that kind of surprised me about it, that all of the areas where they're going to be using for these developments. So when you talk about Booker T's Reality of Wrestling in Houston, Cody Rhodes Nightmare Factory, Seth Rollins Black and Brave Academy, now you're opening up where, in a way, I'm seeing is this: you're taking some of your dojos, I'm gonna go say dojos of wrestling, and you're making them well known, where you're using people like Cody Rhodes or Seth Rollins, and you're making them like independent contractors to find more people for your company. So you're taking the best dojos that we have in wrestling. Okay, Booker T, okay, Cody, do me a favor. We're going to partner now with your dojo, with your academy, your wrestling. Try to help us find us some talent. You know what it means to get to the top. You know what it means to scratch claw and what we need in WWE. And what Triple H is, let me invest in my top performers to help us find who our new wrestlers are. And when you think about this, to me, I see this as, you might be building up a class that's going to be like your OVW in 2002 and 2001. And I'm thinking if you use it on that avenue, you're bringing what we're taking WWE now, and Raw is moving to Netflix and things of that nature, and you're bringing a new culture of what our talent is going to be. And I think it's going to be great for WWE.
Yeah, okay. So my first reaction is good, because I think the first thing I think about is the legitimizing some of these independent promotions. Now, granted, there is a lot of success. The indies are never going to die, so let's make sure we know that off the break, because if the indies were going to die, they would have died a long time ago. The territories were indies, by the way, folks, and then we had like the biggest indie boom in the last however many amount of years, like 10 years ago, and WWE went and cleaned up everybody, and they're still around. And then, you know, I will also mention that, which was really some very needed spring cleaning, was the speaking out movement, where folks were out here exposing these illegitimate schools in their
Absolutely.
I would hope that WWE putting their name on these independent promotions will also warrant a measure of investigation, a background check, some, I don't know, audit, make sure there's licensing involved, code standards, equipment, funding. Hopefully it just improved things in a way that works out for the best. And I mean, let's call it what it is. Now, you mentioned some of the schools. So Nightmare Factory, we already know Cody got the bread.
Yeah.
Cody was already working in the background at AEW during the pandemic,
Yeah.
which they deserve more credit than they get, because when the pandemic hit and wrestlers couldn't travel, Nightmare Factory stepped up and ran, and basically was the catalyst to a lot of the wrestlers that was available for AEW, and even some with WWE. But like, so yes, reality of wrestling, we know Booker T has been doing this thing and has been graduating people to WWE. Roxanne Perez being one of those talents. But then when you think about some of the other schools that you may not know, now I know about Black and Brave. I know about people who graduated from them. I know about some people that graduated from them that's still working the indies here now. But I mean, like, when you talk to some of those indie wrestlers, you're like, oh, I worked at Black and Brave. I think there's, on one hand, people that respect that because they know what school it is. And there's some people who's like, oh, cool, that's awesome. And it's just that. I think now the tone shifts. You go to these schools that are now like, should we just say nationally accredited? So you're like, oh, you have to respect these folks now. These folks are a premium. They come from a legitimate school and legitimate system.
College institutions, that's how we feel, breaking it down.
Exactly. So I hope it's a good deal that works in the both, because one, the schools you're gonna know, but there's gonna be other schools that joins the program, like Rikishi School. A lot of people may not know about it there. But Knox Pro Wrestling and Academy, now you say like, okay, cool. They're part of the system. Either you respect them in terms of the pipeline that they're gonna go through, or you respect them for what they have graduated and what it is on their resume that acknowledges that they were in the legitimate programming. And again, hopefully code standards, policies, all that's in place, licensing, legitimate coaches, just all that stuff. You just hope is just put into making this happen, and WWE doesn't just throw their name on something and it's just that, because why would they?
Absolutely.
Why would they throw their name on something? They got nothing to prove. They've been successful without doing this. So now you hope that this is something that definitely works on both ends. Now, one quickly thing before you get in there. Now I'm curious about what type of independent promotions are going to request sort of accreditation. So you look at some of the, it's like obviously GCW's thriving. They may not need it. But when you look at some of the other ones like CCW, that's in our area, you know. I tell you some schools that I noticed that wasn't on here. MCW's not on this list. Do they try to, lobby for themselves? I don't know if the Dudleys still have their school. I haven't heard about it in a while, but they used to back in the day. You think about some of the other women's schools that are in here, like, Thunder Rosa School, does she, even though she's with AEW, but how would that look? Imagine that. Imagine Thunder Rosa decides that she wants Mission Pro, which is on a hiatus right now, I know, but she legitimizes them through the WWE program, right? But she also works at AEW. You're giving your women the maximum potential to make it to the big leagues here, because you have influence on one and you're properly set in another one. So it's exciting. I saw some negative commentary about it and narratives around it, but for what it is right now, I'm very much optimistic that this is going to be for the better of independent wrestlers, their potentials to graduate and be treated and with the respect that they should.
And here's another thing I will put in for you. So one of the last sentences they say is, WWE ID will give fans the opportunity to follow the paths of these standout prospects on the independent wrestling scenes through curated behind-the-scenes content, as well as highlights and matches showcased across WWE's social platforms. So what is the biggest social platform that WWE has gained? Netflix. I won't be surprised if we see Tough Enough come back, and I'm talking about the Tough Enough where Triple H was one of the hosts and coaches like Al Snow, to bring this back into that reality live TV format.
Not on this list.
Yes, a reality live TV format where you can bring that and make it seem like, okay, who's going to be our next wrestler, and do that through a series of shows on Netflix where people can tune in to see more WWE content, because you have the behind the scenes footage there. I would like to see Tough Enough come back to see who you can bring as that next wrestler that you're trying to see.
I tell you one more other thing I'll say too. Two things. Say you are an aspiring wrestler and you're looking for a legitimate school, and some of these schools like, oh, we have ex WWE blah 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 as a trainer. I was about to throw a name out there, but I'm not. But I'm just gonna say, like, we know there's opportunities where folks will say, I used to work in WWE.
Yep.
I can coach. That's cool and all.
Yep.
But are you accredited? You know? Because because you used to work somewhere doesn't quite mean that you were like the most reputable person to be training this, you know?
Yep.
So I think I think for the inspiring young wrestler who's trying to look for a path, going to the WWE website and being able to click learn more, push you in the right direction without having to worry about the griminess that's out there. And if y'all think I'm just pulling this out of my ass, again, just go back to the speaking out movement where people were exposed for the corruption, the wrongdoing, their what's the word called? I can't even think of the word, but yeah, a lot of different negative things that's attached to the wrongdoing of people being brought into the system, you know. And also probably getting legitimate pay instead of it being a hot dog and a handshake. Maybe now because it's on the table, you can't BS this, you know. So
absolutely,
I like that. I like it. The one thing I was gonna say, I do want better because I do not like Tough Enough. I don't.
Okay.
I tell you what I do like. The combine.
Ooh.
You now got the NIL folks and
I like it.
And you put them to the test and you let the combine really, because in the combine, the thing is you're able to see people's skill sets, endurance, strength. You kind of know how you want to build the wrestlers because it's like, dude, that dude is moving this fast across these ropes. I think we got a exact type of, you know, how we want to build this person's skill set. Because every wrestler don't need to know the same thing. You know, you ain't got the strength. You don't need to be learning power bombing. Who the hell are you power bombing, you know?
Right.
But it don't mean you can't still do what you got to do in the ring, you know? It wasn't that long ago that they were saying Carmelo Hayes was like undersized.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't hear them now. I don't hear them
now. Nope, not at all.
So, yeah. Anyway, I'm very excited for that. Can't wait to see how this evolves over the year. Maybe we'll pick up this discussion in about a year.
It's good optimism with this. Definitely good optimism.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Bound for Glory now. So Bound for Glory was on the 26th in Detroit. TNA's if not their top pay-per-view, definitely their 1A, 1B, along with Slammiversary. But sold out show.
Yep.
And I love the folks who are hardcore TNA supporters who says TNA is the second best brand out there. But I think there's one thing, regardless of how you want to rank it, TNA puts together some shows, and their roster, both men and women, is stacked. And also Rhino going into Hall of Fame, definitely dope. For so much he's done for the world of professional wrestling,
absolutely
well deserving for him to get his flowers across the board in every single place that he has.
Totally agree.
But I did watch this pay-per-view, and I want to talk about what's next for TNA.
Okay.
Now, we had some very interesting looking at their championship matches. So we have Masha Slamovich defeats Jordan Grace, and now she becomes the new TNA Knockouts World Champion.
Yep.
And then maybe the match that everybody had their eyes set on was the Nick Nemeth match versus Joe Hendry, because Joe Hendry, I think is very obvious that he is the hottest wrestler now.
White hot.
Yeah. Nuclear hot. Godzilla pink hot. But he lost to Nick. And so you say, interesting. Joe and Jordan both worked NXT, had fantastic outings. There have been reports from Fightful about their contract status. So it seems that they may be heading to WWE. Seems like WWE is fond of them.
Yeah.
I would say a little different in the sense of like, yeah, I'm sure they're fond of them, but like the agreement worked. So regardless, I think that they're just fond of the roster, period. I think Joe Hendry took his moment and ran crazy with it. And then there's no denying what Jordan Grace can do in the ring. And we've been watching her since, I don't know, it's got to be like maybe 15 years of watching Jordan Grace. So there's no secret of what she can do. And obviously they deserve the best and biggest contract wherever they go. Because these are two people who really seek the moments. But the fact that they both lost here is interesting. Jordan losing, I can sit a little okay with, but Joe Hendry not winning is like, whoa. We were just waiting. It was a matter of time for you to put the strap on this guy. Let's just start there. What is your reaction to the two prospects of NXT? The possibility that they could be bound for NXT right away, which Jordan Grace is going to be on NXT on Wednesday at the ECW Arena, a part of this mega 5-on-5 match. I mean, this reached PWG, if I don't know, when you got like all the best talent in the world all in one match for the women's. But then Joe Hendry loses to Nick. What's your thoughts?
So I think for Jordan it's a little easier to understand because you see that transition of how much she's been on NXT. You got to think she's going to be full-time WWE very soon. And I think this is a way of saying, Jordan, we appreciate you. And Jordan in a way of appreciating TNA, letting her test both waters, being an independent contractor, giving her that Royal Rumble match, giving her those spotlights on NXT, major PLEs for NXT, but then say, okay, now if you release this belt, and we can groom somebody else, you can go on your way and be a mega superstar if WWE treats you right. It was like a perfect partnership of allowing one of your better talents to get the glory, but then allowing your better talents to still go somewhere else if you know your company can't match what another company does. I think that's perfect. For Joe Hendry, I think it was a little bit different. TNA didn't really build him up to be white hot. Now, TNA was the platform he was on, but I think Joe Hendry did a lot of that himself, of promoting himself in a way where he became a megastar and seeing what NXT could do with him. I think TNA was a little bit afraid of giving the belt to him in this matter, not knowing how long he would keep it, or if he was to get this belt, do I walk away? Now, I'm not trying to say this comparison, but it really rings to me like a Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Montreal Screwjob, but just on a lower tier, not knowing what Joe Hendry would do. So you were scared. So keep it on Nick. Nick is the person that you know is going to run through and be your top champion for a little bit at least, but you don't know what Joe is going to do. So protect your company at the same time, not knowing what that wild card is.
Okay, so Jordan, I think it's the inevitable for her to go to NXT.
Absolutely.
And maybe she feeling more ambitious to wanting to get there sooner than later. So this was a happy separation of the two.
Yeah.
But not really, because I'm sure when it comes back to her needing to work in TNA, that is still on the table. She just becomes full-time with NXT, part-time with TNA. I don't think the synergy is ever leaving there. Especially with her husband still in TNA. So
absolutely.
I think they're going to always do what's best for their family, best for their house. And they're smart because Jordan could have signed anywhere. We know this. Jonathan Gresham could have signed anywhere.
Absolutely.
But he also makes he makes the moves that makes the most sense to him. But Joe Hendry not winning was definitely, to me, felt like all right, well, yeah, we do this, but also, wait, how long is this going to be a thing? I think this is a little bit of like damage control.
Yes.
So, you don't have to be a fortune teller to know that they're both heading to NXT. Sooner than later. So
he might be Jordan. I mean, Hendry might be there soon as Wednesday. You never know.
You never know. You absolutely never know. But yeah, it's a stacked show. I don't want to spend too much time on that. But the one thing I will say is I want to give a shout out to my homie Chris Bay. He did sustain an injury at the tapings afterwards. That's my guy. And I think even before I met him, everybody knew how dope of a person he is. People who was really out there in the trenches, running the towns and whatnot. And he's a DMV kid, so I gotta give him love for that too. But also too, I mean, like, he was absolutely one of the guys where I was like, yeah, bro, I need to come out and see you in Vegas, man. Kick it with you in Vegas, see what you do on your home turf. And he's just a standout guy. And him going to TNA, being a part of the Bullet Club, doing work with New Japan. I mean, this is another guy that has world-class talent. You only wish the best for. And I say all that to say we wish him a speedy recovery. The outpour of love from everybody to him, just let you know that everything I'm saying is not a piece of not just a piece of shit that I just said out of my mouth.
It's not a work,
like,
it's a shoot. It's a shoot.
That's right. He's that guy. But speedy recovery. Can't wait to see my guy bounce back. And maybe we'll be talking about him because it should have been him doing some more of the crossover work with NXT at some point. But at the door, I feel is still going to be open for a while. And when he comes back, maybe we have a whole different conversation about him being on track to NXT. Because that's what, honestly, I got to tell you, the way I need to see the Chris Bay and Young OG match, I'm going to lose my mind if it don't happen sooner than later.
I got you.
But speedy recovery to my guy. All right, last thing we got tonight is Bobby Lashley makes his appearance at AEW. Let's just start there, man. We knew it was coming. Yep. All the rumors speculated exactly when and how, and surely enough, they were right.
Yep.
What do you feel about Morbius? I mean, Bobby Lashley appearing in AEW. Do you like it? And do you think this is a good deal for himself and AEW, and obviously setting up the Hurt Syndicate in AEW?
So here's my problem. So first of all, I'm going to tell you off the front, I didn't like it. I don't dislike Bobby Lashley. I just think Bobby Lashley has a problem because he doesn't have an identity. He never had one in WWE. He didn't have one in TNA. And I think now he's not doing it in AEW. And I don't think it's Bobby Lashley's fault. I just think people look at Bobby Lashley, muscle man, muscle head, whatever you want to call it, and they don't know what to do with him. And I think this hurts him because what you're seeing with Bobby Lashley is the same person over and over and over again. Now we're getting to the Hurt Syndicate, Hurt Business, whatever you want to call it in AEW. It's just going to be a replicated version of what they did in WWE that did not work. What you're going to end up in AEW is doing something that's replicating WWE that's not going to work in AEW. And I see the writing on the wall. You're going to get Swerve to turn on Nana, to join this Hurt Syndicate, Hurt Business, or whatever, and then what? You're just going to have all of them play flat because you don't know how to build this up. I just don't like it. And I just already see the writing on the wall. It's not going to be good.
I'm always very jawed at Bobby Lashley's presentation across the board. I always think he's always presented really good.
Yep.
I think he's always a well-dressed man. So the suits he always comes out with, he looks the part,
Absolutely.
He looks like $1 million. But I guess I don't know. One part of me is like, all right, if you're going to do the AEW thing, were you going to just do something different, or we're just going to just cut and paste?
Yeah.
So I always have a problem with that because I always look for some measure of uniqueness. But I also feel like some of these folks are probably like, hey, this works. Why, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Yep.
But I also think it gets stale because for the same reason it got stale in WWE, same reason it gets stale there. I also feel like when you go to AEW, that the new shiny toy syndrome has been wearing off much faster. I can say very honestly now, no one cares about Ricochet because that moment has passed. The Hurt Business, it's like, okay, it's cool, it's here. Won't care about that. Undisputed Era, even when that was a thing, that came and went.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, I mean, listen, happy for everybody getting the check. One, I would love to see a lot more Shelton Benjamin. So this is where I have a problem because I feel like now Shelton Benjamin is going to be overshadowed because of this. I was the biggest fan of Shelton Benjamin X and where all he did in New Japan. I thought this may be an opportunity for him to get back to the shenanigans there.
Yep.
But now that it's not, it's kind of like Bobby Lashley's here. I want to see him thrive and be great. I don't know where his position, his spot is at. But I do know one thing. this definitely doesn't look good for my man Shelton Benjamin in terms of getting that shine that I was looking forward to. So I don't know, man. I really don't know. I think I don't know. Do we just wait and be optimistic with this one again? I don't know.
It's hard to say because, like you said, for just dealing with all of them, Shelton Benjamin, and you said it to the T. He's probably the most undervalued talent that's ever been in a professional wrestling ring of any area. WWE, the independents, where literally he is the reason why most people even like or even want to compete and have certain spots in the Money in the Bank match. And he's never.
That's the truth, man.
And he's never won a world title. He's had a couple of IC titles. He's probably been in part of one of the best or greatest tag teams of all time. No pun intended on their name, but it's like he just knows what to do when it comes to professional wrestling. And granted, he has the natural background because him and Brock Lesnar both wrestled together at Minnesota. So he's just somebody just never got a fair chance. I know he's getting up there in age, but when you think about, and I want to give a shout out to Kevin Knight. Once again, Kevin Knight, somebody I follow very well. He probably had a great experience with Shelton Benjamin when they did some wrestling in the independent circuit and things like that. Like Shelton Benjamin has helped so many other wrestlers that he doesn't even get credit for about teaching them how to do certain spots, things in the ring, where he's just the ultimate professional. And I just think he deserves his due justice. I would love to see him in the Hall of Fame. Not sure if he would ever get there, but he's just not valued in the way. And like you said, having somebody like Bobby Lashley is never going to give Shelton his due. And I really hope people appreciate just how great of a wrestler he is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting now because, like I said, I feel like Bobby comes in will quickly overshadow.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful AEW can do something with them, but I'm not optimistic.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm done. I'm done. That's all I got.
hey, we did good for a half a face. No, we like a two-face right here. We got a face here and a non-face here.
There you go. Freezing it up. Terrible. It's terrible. Yeah, folks, this Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast comes back to you live. We're going to talk about whatever's happening on Raw right now, so we're going to jump to that because we only got a few more minutes because it's not 3 hours anymore. Obviously, what happens at NXT, does Joe Hendry appear? That'd be interesting. Jordan Grace will be there, so we're going to see what the future of what the NXT women's division look like now that is, without a doubt, the best women's division in the world.
Absolutely.
All that and more, so stick around, stay tuned for that. Big O Belt on all social media platforms and bigobelt.com. I get you to the website and I get you to whatever else you need from us. But until then, we appreciate y'all coming through for a special Monday night. We'll see y'all back in just a few days.